was every child's dream to live the way that I grew up. My parents gave us everything. I have spent the past 15 years working in a cardiac catheterization lab, mending arteries and hearts. I am now 40 years old, married with 2 beautiful children, Ava, who is 5 years old, going on 15, and Colton, my little 2.5-year-old, 53-pound, I think he's going to be a linebacker or a defense player. That's what my husband says. I don't know anything about football, but he looks like it already because he's huge. But I was diagnosed a year ago this month with clear cell sarcoma of the soft tissues, and that's something that's rarely heard of. It's also known as CCS. It affects the fat tissues, muscles, tendons, ligaments, and even bone. If it isn't enough, chopping it all off, I also have malignant melanoma. This cancer is extremely rare, and there is not much known about it. And because so few have, there is no funding for research to find a cure. It is an aggressive, fast-growing cancer that usually originates in the limbs, especially the knee, foot, ankle of young adults. It affects people of all ages, but mainly adults in their prime. The prognosis is always poor. Presence of spreading occurs in more than 50% of the cases. The treatment of choice is still surgical amputation of the limb it's found in. I've been fortunate that I did not have to have an amputation. Very early detection and removal are vital for survival. Usually once it's noticed, it's too late. Forgive me. I knew I was going to do this. CCS has a high rate of spreading and almost always comes back. If surgically removed before it spreads, there's a 50% chance of remaining alive for 5 years. If spreading has already occurred, then there is a 20% chance of remaining alive for 5 years. These numbers are unacceptable to me. Many oncologists have tried standard sarcoma therapies to treat this disease without consistent success. We are treading on uncharted territory, and trial by error. I am the guinea pig. I am more than happy to do it. If I can just save one life. When sarcoma is caught early, it is generally a curable disease, but it is rarely found early enough, therefore rarely cured. When it spreads to other parts of the body, it is one of the deadliest and most aggressive forms of cancer. A person typically has, on average, a short life expectancy that is measured in months. There are only about 300 documented cases in the world on this specific cancer, since its discovery that dates back about 15 or 20 years. Less than 1 in 4 people are expected to be alive 1 year after their diagnosis. So here's the story of my journey and my new perspective on life. My world as I knew it came crashing down around me, and a new journey had begun on April 26, 2011, when I found a lump on my inner thigh. It took approximately 5 weeks to establish a primary doctor and get referred to a surgeon. In that time frame, the tumor had more than doubled. June 1st, I was scheduled for surgery to remove that tumor. Now waiting for pathology results. What is it? The day that changed my life was June 6th. It changed my whole family's life, even more than I ever thought possible. I was alone waiting in the doctor's office for my results that both my husband and I had been saying all along, we feel peace about this. We think it's going to be okay. That's why he wasn't there. The pathology came back and they couldn't determine if I had metastatic melanoma or soft tissue sarcoma. The reason for that is that clear cell sarcoma under the microscope mimics the look of melanoma cells, so it's hard to distinguish them from each other. But it doesn't really matter, they're both very deadly. The uncomfortable tears started rolling, and my mind is going crazy. This couldn't be. Someone please wake me up from this nightmare. I felt so lost and alone, and all I could think about was my husband and my 2 little babies. Will I get to see them grow up? Sorry. Will my son ever have a memory of his mommy? I thought I'd be stronger than this, I'm sorry. Sobbing, I just blurted out in that doctor's office in front of those nurses and doctors, I will not accept this in the name of Jesus. You can think I'm crazy or in denial or whatever you want to think. But I know my God, and He is bigger than this. He will not let me die. Watch, I'll show you. This is a little response that I wrote on Facebook to my friends when I first found out my diagnosis. Today I was literally handed my life on a piece of paper with pathology results that stated clear cell soft tissue sarcoma. This is the point in my belief in Jesus Christ where you have a choice. Accept the doom and gloom knocking at your door and let it in, or as we say down here in Keystone, load your shotgun and tell that cancer it's gonna die, not me. I will fight gladly and courageously with all my heart and strength. I will not accept this horrendous evil that is trying to attach itself to me because I believe in a higher power who is the healer of all. Jesus is my refuge and my strength, and He always will be. Through Him, I can overcome anything. The diagnosis sounds bad now, but I have great faith that the end result will be victorious. This is definitely hard for me to believe, but quite impossible for me to accept, because I am extremely stubborn-headed. These are the times when we realize that life is a gift and a blessing that we often lose sight of. It is little things that matter, and they all have to do with family and friends, not things or money. Thank you for all your prayers, because I can definitely feel them. I cannot give thanks enough to all the wonderful people in my life. Please continue praying and believing with great faith for my healing and anyone else out here who needs healing. On June 13th, my pathology was back. They had sent it out to Emory University in Atlanta. They needed a confirmation of which cancer it was. They determined it was clear cell soft tissue sarcoma, but the margins were not clear, so I needed a second surgery. This was all done in Dothan, Alabama, where they are way behind the times in medicine. The doctors there wanted me to go to Montgomery, 5 hours north of Dothan. I called the doctor to make the appointment and find out he has never had a case of anyone with clear cell sarcoma. So of course I'm not going there. So what to do, where to go, what do I do with the kids? All the family is in Keystone, Gainesville, and Ocala. How are we going to do this? I said to my husband. I decided on July 31st that I was going to Shands Cancer Center at UF. And I was going to come back to my hometown here in Keystone and live with my mother, Judy Brooding. I had my consultation, and boy, those people are on the ball. They had test after test done. I had surgery on August 4th on a new lump that I had found on my own. August 4th just happened to be my husband's birthday. They confirmed while I was in the surgery room that this new tumor was, in fact, the same thing. So now I have been confirmed and told that I have stage 4 terminal metastatic clear cell sarcoma. What a horrible present for my husband. August 12th, my parents' anniversary. We're now divorced, but it's still a special day. I got scheduled again at the hospital to have a port placement and to start my first round of chemo. I was to be there 5 days, having some of the worst chemo that they have. And to give you an example, the nurses and doctors call one of them Red Death or Red Devil. And many people can't tolerate it, but I did really well. And I know it's only because of the prayers of people who love me that I did so well. So I would go into the hospital for 5 days, and I would go home for rest for 17 days. I would barely start to feel better, and it was time to go back to the hospital to feel like crap again. I laughed. How typical of my life. Never could do anything the easy way. After 6 rounds of chemo, the doctor said, we'll reevaluate. Those dreaded hospital days I know a lot of you have had. They were very hard, and each visit worse than the last, taking more of me physically and mentally and trying to drain the fight right out of me. I felt like a kid without a choice, going into something horrible that I knew I had to do, but begging and begging God at the same time for another way. It has given me a tiny glimpse at what Jesus must have felt in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he begged his Father one more time, please, Father, if there is any other way. But he said he'd do it if it was God's will, and he did. The one thing that made chemo in the hospital tolerable was all the love and support I felt from so many people praying. I saw many doctors several times a day, and they were all shocked at how well I was doing. But none of them had any other positive or encouraging thoughts. I mean, what can you say to a 39-year-old who looks pretty healthy? That there's nothing we can do for you, and there is no hope. Most patients have had to be taken off of the chemo drugs I was on because they couldn't tolerate it and couldn't stop vomiting. I knew the reason for my strength, and I knew I would continue to baffle the doctors along the way. The other thing I hated was losing my hair. Oh, I had long, beautiful blonde hair. Very prideful of it too, I have to admit. And losing the hair, and then the other thing was the sympathy looks that people give you that you're sick. I never wanted to look sick because I didn't feel sick. And I know they meant well, but it just wasn't comforting. My hair started coming out in clumps, and I was coping with it okay. My husband eagerly waiting to shave my head, asking every day, honey, are you ready? Let's shave your head. I'm not ready yet. What if it all doesn't fall out? You know, I can live with half of it. So as more time went by, more clumps came out, larger and bigger. So I told him on my second round of chemo, I'm going into the bathroom and I'm going to brush my hair until I see a bald patch, and then you can come in and you can shave it. Well, he was excited because he wanted to do a mullet first, and then after the mullet we would get pictures to put on Facebook, and then he wanted to do a mohawk. Lucky for me, I guess he was traumatized more than I was. That didn't happen. So he shaved my head. I thought I was going to just lose it crying. I thought it was going to be horrible. I was pleased with myself because I just got teary-eyed. Not a tear down my face. I was just like a little teary-eyed, and okay, I can deal with this. I'm alive. Hair doesn't matter. There's another miracle that I'd like to share with you that was always in the sky when I was in the hospital, or going to the hospital, or in between hospital visits. I kept seeing repeatedly as a reminder that God was very near me and always with me. He showed me many rainbows. The first rainbow I saw was the day before a hospital visit. My sister, mom, and kids and I were making more memories of our childhood home and taking a walk through memory lane, which we call the valley and the hill. On one of those days, I saw a double rainbow. How magnificent. Of course, I took pictures of all the rainbows I saw, with the date documented from my camera in case people didn't believe me. Anyway, I ultimately saw 4 rainbows in 5 consecutive days, and a total of 6 rainbows in 3 weeks. It's more than many people see in a lifetime, and I knew it was God saying, I'm still here, and I'm going to take care of you. It was a great comfort for me seeing them when I was lying in the hospital feeling hopeless, but always cheery and positive, I should add, to the best of my ability. I did have my low moments, and I will not pretend to be strong all the time. Sometimes I think it is needed to just let go and still do. Oh, I've lost my place. Sometimes I think it's needed to just let go of all the emotions that come with such a fight. Get them out. When I am done, I actually feel stronger somehow. It's not a sign of weakness when you cry. But it's just you having to be strong for way too long. That's easy to cry about. After round 4 of chemo, I noticed another lump. So the doctor said it was time for another scan. November 2nd, scan results showed that the chemo did not work. My existing tumors are gaining strength, and I have many new ones. My doctor said we could try another chemo, but he didn't know if it would work. And if we can't find something to work soon, he said, you have about a year to live. I didn't ask that question. That's not how I think. I said, where do we go from here? What do we do? Not how long do I have? That's not an option in my book. My doctor basically looked at me and shook his head, saying, we are on uncharted territory and I don't know if there's anything else we can do for you. The look he gave me was that he was giving up. I will not accept that. You do not give up on me, I said firmly. You call MD Anderson in Texas, you call Dana-Farber in Boston, and talk to those sarcoma doctors and find something to work. Of course, I said many other things that I won't say here, but the doctor got the point because then he asked me very shamefully, do you still want me to be your doctor? I said, yeah, if you're going to work. So he's still my doctor, and on November 16th, I started searching for another doctor. I wanted a holistic doctor, one that would do the alternative treatments that these traditional doctors don't look at or even know about. I searched the internet for 3 days nonstop, couldn't find anything, and finally God answered my prayer and put this man on my computer. He's in Gainesville. His name is Dr. Erickson, and I wanted to go to him to get intravenous vitamin C therapy because it has been proven in the past, all the way back to the 1930s or 50s, I can't remember which, that it cures cancer. And it can cure many other things too. So I started going to him, and what a blessing. At our first meeting, he asked, how did you find out about us? I said, I was praying to God, and he brought me to you. He just smiled, and that was the beginning of a great relationship. November 21st, I started my vitamin C therapy. December 28th, I changed my diet to an extreme. I started juicing, I cut out sugar, white flour, white rice, corn, even fruits because of the sugar level. I had to cut out sugar completely because the sugar feeds the cancer. And this stuff grows so fast that a few cookies, I know the difference. So we began a lot of different things, changing our lifestyle, changing my makeup, deodorant, everything healthy we could possibly do to build up my immune system. So then we get our next set of scans on January 2nd. Promising results, existing tumors a tiny bit bigger, and there's just a couple of new ones, but they're really small. I was happy with those results. Throughout the next few weeks, I could feel the tumors getting bigger though, and some were causing pain, so we consulted all the great minds again, and all of them agreed I needed surgery. Before I scheduled that surgery, I started another alternative therapy called hyperbaric oxygen chamber therapy. It's where the oxygen can penetrate your cells and tissues deeper, at a deeper level, because you're in a pressurized chamber, kind of like being on an airplane. Started that, and I'm still doing that now. February 16th, I scheduled my 5th surgery to remove 8 more tumors. One of them ended up to be a fatty tissue, which is great, but all the other 7 were the same cancer. March 26th, I had a PET scan. These results were not promising. It showed 6 of the tumors removed had already started growing back. And there are many, many more. Too many to count. I didn't want to count. My God is bigger than this. And I kept reminding myself. March 29th, doctor visit to discuss options. He said, you can't have surgery every month. They grew back in less than a month. It's just not something you can do. They're going to keep growing back is what they told me. So March 31st, I started a new chemo pill. April 2nd, here comes the new side effects. First nausea, then vomiting, extreme fatigue, acid reflux, severe joint pain and swelling, and partial loss of function in my hands and feet. I called the doctor and was told to stop the pill. After stopping the pill, I developed a severe rash, which is why you might see me up here looking extremely red. The rash took over my whole body. My tongue started swelling, my throat was hard to swallow, and the doctors, when they finally did see me, said it was the worst they'd ever seen.